This is not a complimentary or a flattery video on what is going on inside of Israel. The Bibas family funeral today was touching, with so many Israelis going outside and just being there to support the family and the funeral, and people from all over the world. There are images from Argentina and Germany. The Bibas family turned into a symbol, a real symbol of what was happening on October 7th. And their story is indeed very tragic. And I feel that with the Bibas family, I have buried my innocence. Not that I had much left to begin with, but when October 7th happened, I started my English channel because I felt like I need to understand this phenomenon of anti-Semitism. But now, the Bibas family situation and the way the funeral went and the reactions to it makes me feel the same way just about the Israeli society. How much of reality do you need to understand who is in front of you? See, those kids were strangled pretty soon after they were kidnapped with bare hands. And then the mother probably had some similar kind of fate. And the whole time, so many Israelis had bought into the option that they were somehow killed by Israeli fire and were not. They didn't have the patience to wait and understand what happened. And now, in the funeral today, one of the family members of Bibas had said, oh, if Israel hadn't decided to fight against Hamas and right away negotiated whatever they could so they could get the Bibas family released, we wouldn't be in where we are at right now. So you're saying that if Israel had surrendered to the slaughterers, the animals that had barehandedly slaughtered and suffocated your family, the world would have been better. I mean, I understand you're grieving, but there is grief and there is insanity. There is grief and there is dangerous, deprived thinking. It's just that this mind virus is manifesting itself differently in different populations. I don't believe in karma too much, but seeing those orange people, orange symbolism for the Bibas family, how curious it is that it's the same color that those who were opposing the getting out of Gaza plan were wearing as well, when Israel had forcibly forced its own population out of Gaza. Let me tell you a simple geopolitical truth that had been true since eternity. The only way to make sure you can defend a border or defend an area is if you have a civilian population there. There is a reason. Just open maps and notice that the border areas tend to have more cities and populations and whatever. Unless it's, in many, many places. Unless those are like fake borders that were decided randomly. But in general, it's a very basic geopolitical fact, and people think we're above geography. But guess what? You need to eat, you need to shit, and you need to drink water, and you are not above geography. There is no settlement, there is no security. Just it's a geopolitical truth that you cannot, no matter how stupidly leftist you are, you cannot ignore. Okay? So once Israel had decided to remove its citizens out of Gaza Strip, they had basically allowed it to turn into the kind of Gaza Strip that would be able to go ahead and massacre Jews on October 7th and take away the Bibas family. And now, mirroring this orange kind of symbolism, we can see that it was orange warning then and an orange consequence now. Yes, those communities that you ruthlessly decided to take out with no mercy, and now you are without any ability to do any sort of like self-reflection. Well, these people that were brave enough to live in the heart of Gaza could have now saved you, just like you, with your bodies, saved Tel Aviv. Yeah, guess what? If they had still been there, you've had better chances. And there also would have been more awareness about what was going on inside of Gaza. And you could not have pretended that you have this, unbreakable kind of fence and everything's going to be fine and you can disengage with them. Idiots. Do you have anything nice to say? It doesn't require a lot of bravery to come up and show up in a funeral. It takes a lot of bravery to fight for the living. To show up in a funeral requires zero controversy or bravery. So, as nice and cute and beautiful that is, that people showed up, and it's a good thing they did. That is like, let's say, it shows you are not completely mentally deprived as population. We are not that awful. But are we moral? Attacking Israel for using the Bibas family to do us bara around the world and explaining the situation that we're suffering from and with, and the cruelty of Gaza. And you are opposing that. As if you are not in the same boat with all of us. You think you can oppose that because you didn't vote to this government? Well, guess what? You are part of this country. If you keep digging holes and hurting the boat, well, guess what? Those who dig the holes get drowned first, so good for you. You were helping the citizens in Gaza, weren't you? Those who live around this border, the most leftist-leaning place on Israel. You had effectively, how about you stood there and said, hey, we should have not let those savages into our communities because they were the ones that gave all the information to Hamas and knew exactly where to attack and how many people live in each and every house because you employed them. So do I have mercy? I have a lot of mercy. But I'm tired of those who are willing to do everything when it comes to fighting the country, but take zero responsibility. How about you stand up and say it was a mistake to employ those savages that later came and murdered you? It was a mistake to not understand that without the settlements there inside of Gaza, then you are the front line. Idiots. You see the difference between the settlers that were inside of Gaza, they understood what they were doing. They understood the risk and they decided to take it. They had done it for all of us. They were the responsible ones. They did it and they were willing to sacrifice themselves. And if it was the same situation happening, then they would have been there fighting all the way and understanding that this is the choice they'd made by being on the border with those savages. You did not understand who your neighbors are, did you? And my innocence? It's not only about the Hamas. It's about understanding that there are forces inside of Israel that are so self-righteous, they are willing to kill everyone else. Thank you for listening. It's time to tackle the issues inside of the Israeli society.